Welcome everyone to our CoH2 replaycast. This time we're going to have a 4v4 on Leglaze. It's going to be sent in by the Panzergrenadier that could. Let's get started without any further ado. And his ally is going to be Apple Company, playing as the British. Il Mostro, the monster, playing as British as well. And another British, Pure Free Owner from the AWA clan, who's already going to pick Royal Engineer Company. Let's talk about that later. Now, on the enemy team, we're going to have French Predator in all caps. Is he trying to scare someone? Because that's quite cute. Pussy Tank, playing as Wehrmacht with Spearhead. And Weed, Happy or Hippie. There's a hashtag there. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. D-Day, so I'll just call him Weed. And then Odin, playing as the OKW. Now, so it looks like 2 OKWs and 2 Wehrmachts against 3 British and 1 American. Ooh, double assault engineers already out on the field for the Panzergrenadier that could. That's not a good idea. I can already tell you that. I'm sorry, that's not a good idea. I mean, the assault engineers are a decent infantry unit, but they are really weak to stern piles because for some unknown arcane reason, the assault engineers are very vulnerable to small arms fire. I feel like they may be bugged in some way with their received accuracy modifiers or something, or their HP, but they are very weak. Now, right now, they were actually used in the correct way. After the Stern Pioneers were focusing down the rear echelon squads, the assault engineers went around and tried to flank the Stern Pioneers while they were shooting at the rear echelons and got them down to very low HP. Unfortunately, they were unable to actually finish off the very low health Stern Pioneers because they are very weak also at medium range, not just at close, not just as long range as normal submachine gun infantry are, but also at medium range. Only at very close ranges such as this one are they any way effective. Now, as you can see, this one squad is already starting to do some good. 6 kills in bed 1. However, that won't last. As soon as the Germans actually realize what's actually happening and start to take some countermeasures to that, they're going to be in a bit of a really big pickle. Now, French Predator actually going for 3 Kuba wagons, and he has lost his stern piles already. It looks like to the perhaps Vickers, perhaps to the British forces on the right side. I am not really sure. Now, his Kuba wagons are also in a really big heap of trouble because they're also kind of standing around where there's Vickers machine guns, and I'm not really sure as to why they're doing this, but they clearly weren't being microed. So French Predator, yeah, he was definitely trying to scare them with that name, but his actions really didn't speak to that, unfortunately for him. Now, on the left side, Odin is the one OKW that's sort of doing well. I mean, he hasn't lost his Stern Pioneers yet. He hasn't lost his Kuba wagon, so at least he's keeping his units alive. That's pretty good. Now, his own ally, Weed Happy Day, has gone for the Jaeger Armor Doctrine, and he is going to have some snipers on the field. And the other Wehrmacht also going for snipers, Pussy Tank. Now, Spearhead Doctrine and Jaeger Armor Doctrine are, of course, going to be very good late game for the call-in vehicles. However, the Elephant Tank Destroyer is, I feel like, not that great on this map because there's a lot of line-of-sight blockers, a lot of terrain, slopes, and the likes that make the Elephant's chances of actually missing or not having the line of sight to fire on something pretty high. Now, in the center, or in the left, these 2 snipers actually getting their first victim in terms of squads. They wipe out a British infantry section trying to retreat through a pretty horrible retreat path. I guess they were trying to flank around this bunker that was already building. I'm not really sure. Now, the assault engineers really have no defense against these snipers unless they can get them in a flank. So I feel like if the Panzergrenadier that can get a few assault engineers down in one group and manage a flank on these snipers, and that's pretty much the only counter that these allied players have on the left side to the sniper menace, because right now the Apple Company British don't really have the tier 1 yet, or the tier 2 yet. That's really the prerequisite to having the sniper or the AEC that are really able to counter the German snipers quite effectively. The of course, Universal Carrier could counter the snipers, but still, the Universal Carrier does have its problems that make it a not exactly greatly viable unit. Now, we have a Fursturm Doctrine from Odin. Looks like the Fursturm Doctrine is not going to be the best decision you could have made either. I mean, the Flame Hetzer is really bad. And the rocket barrage, while pretty good, is very expensive. And with OKW, you are always very limited on the amount of munitions that you can actually spend on these big abilities, and you want them to be as impactful as possible. And something like 200 munitions spent on a rocket barrage isn't as impactful as a perhaps zeroing artillery or a Fallschirmjäger assault. So really, it's not that good for the late game, and it's not that good for the early game, despite the fact that you can get the Flammenwerfers on the Sternpiles, because yeah, the Sternpiles, okay, they're good with the flamethrowers, but that means that they are unable to get either the Minesweeper upgrade or the Panzerschreck upgrade. And after the changes to, of course, OKW, where they cannot get Panzerschrecks on Volksgrenadiers anymore, it is actually much less viable to go for that flamethrower upgrade with the doctrinal flamethrower than it was before, because before you were sacrificing Minesweeper. You could just get another Sternpile. But right now you're also sacrificing not only Minesweeper, but also the possibility of getting Panzerschrecks, which is of course really, really not what you want to have. So I feel like that is kind of a really bad decision out of Odin, despite the fact that he was the one that was doing the best. Now, Panzer Grenadier could going for a Lieutenant. I feel like the Lieutenant tech does couple his Doctrine selection really well, because he can get the Captain later and have that additional anti-tank and additional unit selection with the Pack Howitzer as well, just to counter any German vehicles, along with having the Lieutenant for the extra anti-infantry, and then later on with the M10s and the bulldozers that he can call from off-map. He won't have to upgrade the Major and just spend the additional fuel in teching spree. So he doesn't have to do that, and that's pretty good for him. Now, we do have on the right side Il Mostro with a huge amount of defensive, along with Pure Free Owner. Pure Free Owner, obviously going for the Royal Engineers, he's going to be able to have a lot of sturdy emplacements later on, thanks to the Standfast ability, and later on he's also going to be able to designate a command vehicle, though I feel like since he hasn't gone for a universal carrier, he's not going to do that. Now, we do have a half-track from Pussy Tank going for the tier 2. It would be really good if he also got out a 222 Scott card, because the 222 Scott card is going to be really useful in case the British players on this side get a sniper, which I feel like would be a good decision out of both of them, because the sniper would be able to counter. Oh no, this is not the way you use the flame half-track. Oh boy, running into Bofors is not exactly the best way to preserve your 251 Sonderkraftfahrzeug, and that's in fact the way it dies. Now, I understand the flame half-track purchase, and I in fact agree with it. I feel like the flame half-track was definitely the way to go over there. I feel like, however, he does not really understand how good the Bofors are against light vehicles. In fact, he should. There's a... Oh no, right, it's his allies, Kübelwagen, that died to the machine gun earlier. But still, I feel like these German players really aren't respecting the Bofors in any kind of way, and they're just walking into it and taking a huge amount of damage, along with the machine guns that are covering it in an interlocking field of fire, just massacring all the German forces that are approaching. And that's exactly what you don't want to happen. You don't want to run into the enemy's defenses. You want to go around them. In this case, the best way to go about it for the Germans would be to take over this munitions area with the church, and then go around, take this point, and cut off all these British points on the right side. Because if they take that cutoff over here, then the British will not be able to get any resources from the right side of the map, and they will have to leave their fortified hellhole and try to do something to deal with the cutoff. And if you can position a machine gun over here and one machine gun covering this approach over here, then you can pretty much easily stop any attempts of that with the British. Now, a secondary flame half-track was purchased by Pussy Tank along with a mortar half-track, so he's not going to be getting any later tier units out anytime soon, because the flame half-track is going to be 30 fuel, and the mortar half-track is going to be 40 fuel. So that's going to be 100 fuel used on half-tracks. And that's, of course, going to delay by about 3 minutes anything else that he wants to maybe get out of his fuel reserves. Now, on the left side, we do have a sniper. Now, the 50 cal armor-piercing sniper is going to be a decent counter with the counter snipes to the German snipers. In fact, one of them, the more veteran one, has already fallen to his boy's rifle. And I feel like that's going to be really good, especially if you can keep it alive, because it's also going to sort of serve as a detrimental sort of... more of a deterrent to the German sniper, because now that he knows now that Weed knows that there is a British sniper, he will be very, very careful with his own sniper, and that is going to save the lives of a lot of British infantrymen. Now, we also have a 222, and the 222 is going to be the counter to the sniper. However, it wasn't needed because the Lux is already on the field from Odin, and I feel like the Lux is a much better counter than the 222 because, of course, the sniper can use his aimed shot to provoke a critical on both of those vehicles, but the Lux, having a lot more HP than the 222, is going to be able to resist a lot more of follow-up damage coming in its way. And that's going to be really good. Now, Apple Company has been forced back a little bit from the left side, but at the same time, the Panzer Grenadier went for a half-rack, and that's going to be the excellent counter to the Flame half-rack, and also a pretty good unit against any kind of German infantry squads that might be trying to do their part. And I feel like right now the Allies should be focusing on getting out a counter to this Lux. Apple Company could get a AC. He hasn't really... he's actually getting a tier 3, so he's not really going for the AC. He hasn't gotten any of the tier 2 upgrades, and him going for the tier 3 means that he's going to be able to provide a Cromwell to his team in a couple of minutes. That's going to be awesome for the British on the left side, because right now the Germans are really lacking an AT over here, as you can probably see. They do have the ability to get out the pack gun, and of course Odin hasn't really gotten that much manpower, but that's because he's going for a support gun, which is 350, I believe, 330 manpower, and that could be, I feel like, switched around for a Kenwerfer, and that would be quite wise to do that, because, again, he went for the flamethrower upgrade on his stern pilots. That means he doesn't have any Panzerwrecks. That's not going to be too great. Now, this may be looking like a foolhardy move from Panzer Grenadier that could, getting out the flak half-rack to chase down the Lux, or chase away the Lux, and that's actually not true, because the Lux, while being a light tank with a pretty decent protection, is still a light tank. And actually, ooh, is this the new Nazi technology? Just getting the Luxes to phase into each other? Yeah, I feel like that's weird. Damn, this new double Lux. Damn, damn Wunderwaffen. Okay, so getting that out of the way, the flak half-track is actually quite effective against the Lux because of its I believe 37mm main gun. Perhaps it's actually at 20mm. I'm not sure. I have to look. 37mm. Okay. So the 37mm main gun is actually bigger than the Lux's 20mm main gun. And while the Lux's 20mm doesn't have any problems damaging the very light frame of the half-rack, the half-rack also doesn't really have a lot of problems damaging the very light armor of the Lux, especially if the Lux is actually turning its sort of nice, sexy, Luxy ass towards the enemy like this. If a half-rack was to come from over here, he would be able to do a lot of damage to this Lux from the back. Of course, not quite as devastating as something like an AT gun, as you can see, but the AT gun is much easier to, of course, run around for the Luxes. Now, the Luxes are going to be dealing a lot of damage to this AT gun, but the AT gun managed to get one shot off on the Lux, and also the Lux has been hit by a anti-tank grenade? Oh no, that's actually the damaged gun, not a damaged engine. He was hit by a couple of bazookas, actually, from rear echelon squads. That's a really good pick in terms of weapon selections and munitions usage from the Panzer Grenadier that could. Having that sort of anti-vehicle squad with the rear echelons is going to be really important for him to deal with these German light tanks. Of course, I feel like a better decision, you should get these guys out of the house because of the the Stern Pioneers with the flamethrower. Of course, having a damage bonus against buildings, you don't want to leave your own flamethrower units in the buildings because they're going to lose pretty hard. Now, on the right side of the map, the saving grace of the Allies is the fact that the Mostro and Pure Owner do have a pretty good grip on the right side of the map. They've got AT guns, they've got machine guns, they've got Grovers, they've got artillery with 2 mortar pits who have gone a lot of damage down on the enemy. That's going to be excellent for them in the long run because the fact that the Germans weren't able to actually cut them off and deal with the rear areas of the British means that the British were able to set up on the right side, pretty much uncontested, get a fuel cache down over here on the cutoff point, so that means that they cannot just send a random unit to cut it off. They will have to send some kind of vehicle to destroy the fuel cache in any manner of quick time, and that's going to be really good for the Allies because it's going to sort of secure a resource base. Now, the Germans don't really have any fuel caches of their own. They've got one, actually. No, never mind. From Pussy Tank. And I feel like Pussy Tank right now has lost a lot of troops, so he will need to get something out to sort of rectify that. He has gone for the tier 3. That's going to be good, sort of coupling with his Tiger later on. That will mean that essentially he will have the Panzer IV to bridge the gap, as I say, between the early game and mid game to the late game Tiger. So that will be good for him. Now, the Panzer Grenadier that could going for the decap on the victory point, that's going to be good because right now the Allies have a pretty good lead in terms of VPs, and if they can continue that in any capacity, that's going to be excellent for the later game because they're going to sort of push the Axis into some more desperate and foolhardy decisions, such as trying to keep Luxes in a pretty clear line of fire of a building with Piat upgraded infantry sections. That is exactly what you don't want to happen. And we also have a Cromwell. Now the Cromwell will be in a pretty actually terrible position because there's two Sturm Pioneers with Panzerschrecks and two Volksgrenadiers that can Panzerfaust the Cromwell, but at the same time the Luxes will be in very big danger because of the Cromwell's excellent gun against these light tanks. Also, the AT gun was recrewed by Il Mostro, and he will be able to support his own allies as a Halfrek and Cromwell in dealing with one of the Luxes. The other two Luxes were able to hightail it out of there pretty fast, which it just speaks to the just excellent speed of that vehicle. Now, Weed is also a tier 3 man, and he went for the Panzer IV, hint the Panzer IV will be able to easily finish off this A half-track. However, the Panzer IV will not be able to do that much over here on the central side of the map because of the fact that there's an AT gun, and there's a huge amount of infantry with anti-tank weapons that are ready to protect the area from this deadly Panzer IV. Now, a really good thing that Weed actually did is going for these free Grenadier squads upgraded with LMGs, because he wasn't really in possession of any Grenadiers before this, and that's really good that he actually went for Grenadiers, because now that he's actually transitioning into a more proactive role on the left side, a less supportive role than he was doing before. Of course, remember that before he was the guy with 2 snipers. He is going to have pretty much need of having a strong infantry force, and these 3 Grenadiers will provide him with just that. Of course, if he can also get a 4th Grenadier squad, that's going to be really good, because if he can use those Grenadiers as a sort of a mobile Terminator, mobile group, just run around with those LMGs, sniping down, laser gunning down any American or British troops that are trying to just sort of force them back, that's going to be really good, because the LMGs are basically unstoppable if they can get some veterancy, and even if they don't have any veterancy, they're still very, very powerful at dealing with, especially lower quality infantry such as these assault engineers and the less upgraded infantry sections such as these from Apple Company. Apple Company has actually got a lot of manpower. Panzer Grenadier that could also has a lot of manpower, but he was of course saving up for the Wolverine tank destroyers. Now, I feel like he could have been saving a little bit less manpower, but actually no. He actually calculated that quite well. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. So he will have enough resources for about 3 Wolverines from the start. And I feel like if he can use them correctly and conservatively, most importantly, because that's what a lot of people really lack with the usage of the M10s, is patience to send them in at the right moment, not just straight off the field, okay, now they come in, I'm just going to send them in. No, you want to send them in at the correct timing. They are tank destroyers, they are very fragile, and despite the fact that their sort of playstyle is more incentivizing things like these, like I love that. I love doing that. Okay, so it looks like one Sturm Pioneer already going down, and the Volksgrenadiers were actually forced to retreat before they could get their Panzerfaust off, which was very, very lucky for the M10. Now, unfortunately for it, 2 Grenadiers were able to Panzerfaust it in time for its escape. However, the Panzer IV will be forced away by the 6-pounder and 10 gun, so he will not be in any way in danger. So that was a really good play with the M10. I feel like that was a little bit overzealous, but still, it ended up working out in his favor. His vehicle crew are already vet-free, giving them additional repair speed, and with the M10's low HP pool, that is going to be a very lightning-fast repair for his tank destroyers. Now, he's going to be continuing to produce those M10s, and I feel like that is the correct way to do it. Just getting the swarm of M10s and using them as a sort of a battering ram against the enemy. Now, on the right side of the map, we do have a little bit of a fall in the fighting. Looks like the British were able to pretty much continue the securing of the right side of the map They've managed to get a little bit of a raid down, it seems, against the Germans on the right side. There are a couple of defenses from Pussy Tank and from French Predator. French Predator has finally managed to get out a Panzer IV from his Luke's army, and the Luke's army is going to be in a very, very bad way if the M10s can actually survive these Stern Pioneers. Very actually close, a little bit of a misplay over here on the M10 part, but he will finally manage to get the right angle of approach on the Stern Pioneers. There is a Panzer IV crushing through that wall, completely surprising the M10, and actually is going to be able to pretty much easily turkey shoot it to death, and that was a pretty easy target shooting, target practice for the Panzer IV's crew. Getting a little bit of veterancy off that, and unfortunately the M10 that was Vet 1 will have to be sacrificed for the greater good of killing those Stern Pioneers. Unfortunately, also the Luxes were able to escape from the vices of the British infantry with Piats, and the British infantry with Piats should definitely focus on recruiting this anti-tank gun, because there's a lot of German armor roaming the field right now. Now some engineers with flamethrowers, also from Weed Happy. But unfortunately, that is not a good idea with the M10. He should not be charging into the Panzer IV's sort of territory, home turf. What you want to do is keep on your own territory, where you know that the enemy doesn't have any anti-tank guns lying in ambush for your very fragile tank destroyer. And right now, the Germans have the complete armored superiority on the left side. Of course, this isn't sort of the whole picture, because the British do have quite a lot of infantry that are able to participate in the area, especially because right now Il Mostro is able to actually send a lot of troops to the center and the left, because his own positions on the right side are so secure, and also Pure Owner has started to move into the center as well with his infantry army. Now, what that means is effectively the fact that the Germans on the left side are playing a little bit of a 2v5 against not 2v5, a 2.5 against 3.5 game, because only French Predator over here is sending actually troops in the center, and even then not really helping out his allies on the left that much. Whereas all of the allied players are really participating in both the center and the left. So the sort of balance of power evens out at sort of one extra player being on the side of the allies. And that, of course, means that the superior German numbers of armor don't really mean much, because there's a lot more units that they have to deal with than their own counterparts. Now, this mortar pit should definitely be cancelled before the British infantry building it, the sappers, actually get completely wiped out by these Volksgrenadiers. Remember, infantry that is actually building get a received accuracy penalty, so they are easier to hit, and they take a lot more damage as a result. But unfortunately for the Volksgrenadiers, they're actually being targeted by a couple of mortar pits that are in the center. Now, Pure Owner has gotten a mortar pit on the left side, or at the right side, and he's had that mortar pit for a long ass time. But he was able to also get 2 mortar pits down on the center area of the map, and that's going to be really good at holding down this central VP position. Right now, the VP game is still in the favor of the Allies. About 300 VPs are left for the Germans, and that's not going to be too great if the Allies can make a push happen on the left side, as they are attempting to do. Sniper is going to be in the building over here. The sniper is actually not doing much. British sniper looks like it was killed in action. But unfortunately, this machine gun is going to be forced away by the huge flamethrower spam of the assault engineers. One assault engineer actually going down from rifle grenades. Really good play by Weed to actually use those rifle grenades, because he's got a lot of munitions that he can use. He's also going to get a Stuka bombing strike down somewhere. There is a huge blob of British infantry that's going to be able to wipe out the Vet 2 Grenadiers. Another Vet 2 Grenadier squad is also in a very big danger. Stuka strike going down on the Sherman Firefly, but not really doing all that much damage because it was a near miss. And also the Assault Engineer squad almost dying, but still managing to survive. And the only thing that's going to sort of stop the British assault in its tracks is going to be this bunker with a machine gun, along with the Schwerpanzer headquarters, supported by 2 support guns. So that's really not a place where the Allied infantry wants to go in any capacity. Now, this Comet could actually flank this Panzer IV from the back. No, monster, what are you doing? I believe he is actually microing somewhere else. He's trying to get a commando glider. Yeah, the commando glider is actually going to come down on the left side of the map, looks like. Perhaps... where is it going? Can I see it? Yeah? Okay, so it's going on the right side. No! He's turned around again. What is he doing? I'm not sure. So we do have another sort of a counterattack from the Germans on the left side, and that's going to be really good because, again, I feel like the Panzer Kid is being a little bit too aggressive with his M10s. He should, with the M10s, the main thing is the fact that you should be aggressive playing with them, but you should never, ever, ever get themselves in a position where they can be Panzerfausted, A, or B, hit by anti-tank guns. And, God forbid, both at once is pretty much the Antichrist of the M10 Bible. You don't want to do that. Now, the Panzers are trying to attack the Sherman Firefly position. Of course, there's also an M10 over here that's being repaired and not really being monitored, but unfortunately, by the Panzer Grenadier that could. But the Panzer IV will go down to the Sherman Firefly's 17-pounder gun. That's going to be really good. However, right now their allies on the left side are really lacking anti-infantry. There is a 50 cal with that too, sort of just standing around. Actually, a couple of rear echelon squads were trying to make an assault on, looks like, the base, but they were repulsed by the German infantry. Very lucky to escape with just a sliver of health on both ends of that squad. Now, we do have a bit of a assault mounting on the right side. Somehow, French Predator, by the power of the goal, has managed to keep alive both of his Luxes and actually getting them fed up a little bit, which is insane. Of course, right now he's throwing all that away, and he's gonna charge right into the right side of the map. But the AT guns are facing the wrong way. Why? Why are they facing the wrong way? Of course, it isn't really that big of a deal because Il Mostro is coming in with his Comet from the flank, and the Panzer IV is taking a lot of damage. Unfortunately, the Blitz ability is actually going to get it out of harm's way. Never mind, the Comet snipes it from maximum range. There is another Comet from Pure, and I feel like that is going to be a really good engagement for the Allies because right now they don't really have anything that has died, except this one anti-tank on crew, which is a bit of a shame because of the emergency, but really nothing lost in the long term. Of course, the AT gun can regain the emergency pretty quickly, definitely quicker than the Germans can replace their losses. Of course, French Predator was the one that lost most of his stuff. He lost one of the Luxes, the less veteran one, but still it's a loss. And he has lost the Panzer IV, which is really the bigger loss for him. He's also gone for the Special Operations Doctrine, which means that he can get the Command Panther out, which means that losing that Panzer IV hurts doubly so because the Command Panther is, of course, really powerful at buffing allied vehicles. Even sort of more mid-tier ones do get quite a bit of a bonus off that. Now, the Commando Glider from Il Mostro has actually gone in the center, and in the center there's really nothing. Actually, the mortar pits from Pure were actually destroyed. I'm not sure as to how. Perhaps some kind of incendiary attack, or perhaps a rocket barrage from what was his name? Odin. I mean, he does have quite a lot of munitions ready, and actually the M10s are walking into their death, just like their counterparts, their German colleagues on the right side. And this one M10 is taking a lot of damage, but thankfully for it, the pack gun has switched its target to the other M10. Of course, the other M10 does go down in the process. The 222 Scout Car is being attacked and chased down relentlessly by the second M10, and it's going to go down. Unfortunately for the second M10, there is a Panther on the field from Odin, and the Panther will be able to deal a lot of damage to this M10. I feel like the Panther should definitely chase, though. It's not giving chase, and the M10 will be able to put a building in between it and the Panther. That's going to be the escape ticket for the M10. Pretty much just like when you're playing Monopoly and you get a just get out of jail for free card. That is what this M10 just got because of the fact that the Panther should have definitely chased, and it would have been able to kill the M10 quite easily, along with perhaps some kind of German infantry help from the left side. Of course, the I praised Weed for getting all those nice, juicy Grenadiers with LMGs. However, he has actually lost 2 of them in the engagement earlier. He's going to lose a sniper, his Vet 2 sniper, to the horde of American infantry, and he has also gone for free Panzer Grenadiers, and I feel like that is a big mistake because the Panzer Grenadiers are not exactly going to be helpful against this huge American blob, and it's also not going to be too helpful against the British blob as well from Apple Company. Of course, the British blob is not really as strong as it could be because Apple Company still has 2,000 manpower that he could spend. He's definitely the gold medalist in the floating Olympics today, but unfortunately, Pussy Tank is a very, very close silver right now because he is also floating a huge amount. Of course, he's trying to save up for the Tiger, but as I say many times, don't save up for your heavy tank in both manpower and fuel. It's only fuel that you need. it's only 640 manpower that you actually are going to spend on that heavy tank. So that excess 1,300 manpower is all manpower that you could be spending on units. In the case of Pussy Tank right now, he could do with a couple of mortars to deal with all of the British assemblement? That's not a word. To deal with all the British emplacement spam and defensive sort of works on the right side. 2 or 3 mortars would be perfect for that. 3 grenadiers would be perfect to fight over the center and use those LMGs to deal with the British infantry on all ends of the map. And then a couple of pack guns. He's already got 1 pack gun, which is really good. He only needs 1 more pack gun, and he's good to go to counter any of the comets, because the comets, they are very good at maneuvering and they're very good at flanking AT guns. But at this moment, as you can see, this is a very stalematey, very sort of no man's land over here. 1 person over here, 1 other person over here, just headbutting against each other. So I feel like the comets don't really have that much of a room to maneuver against the pack guns. Of course, the pack guns are going to be fairly vulnerable to the British artillery, like these mortar pits. But if the Germans can actually get out some artillery of their own, such as mortars, then they're pretty much not going to be as effective as they could be. Now, Pure Owner can get an AVRE, but at this moment, the AVRE is not exactly the best sort of choice, because, and I feel like he knows that, because the German strength right now is probably going to come from tanks, and the AVRE is not too effective against vehicles unless they have been in any kind of way. Oh, this is definitely a mistake with the handling of this M10. He may actually get away with it. Very lucky to actually escape. Now, again, unless the tank has been crippled in some way, the AVRE is not really able to deal with the tank in any effective way. Now, on the right side of the map, we do have a bit of a Panther against British sort of battle, and it looks like the Panthers are going to be getting by far the worst of it. They are walking into the line. The advanced tank guns, the 6-pounder wall is going to easily push them back, but unfortunately the Comet decides to actually walk with its rear armor facing the Germans, and that was of course a terrible decision, especially when it was very low on HP. I feel like that was a misclick from Pure Owner, and he will lose the Comet for no German casualties. So that was definitely a good engagement in the end for the Germans, despite the fact that they were losing it so heavily earlier on. Now, we do have a huge horde of allied infantrymen trying to push for the left side of the map, and there's 3 M10s ready to support them in their endeavors later on. Unfortunately, I feel like the M10s are not going to be that effective, because they will just be like a knife trying to hit a huge suit of armor, because right now there is a lot of German defenses on the left side of the map, and that is exactly what the M10s are not effective against. What the M10s are effective against is open country, where there are no anti-tank guns, possibly also no Schwer Panzer quarters, because the Schwer Panzer quarters is extremely effective against the M10s. Now, good bundle grenade on the infamous sort of VP house on the left side is going to force back the combat engineers, but that was a huge bundle grenade. The British blob was dealing a lot of damage to the Panzer Grenadier blob, but the Panzer Grenadier blob responded in kind with a huge bundle grenade. Of course, bundle grenades have been buffed, so they are very effective. And unfortunately, an M10 hits a mine? I'm not sure as to where that mine was and how it wasn't hit in any way earlier on, but that's a really bad thing. I feel like the Panzer Grenadier should have definitely used repair critical over here to repair the critical engine damage on the M10, getting it out of there along with his other M10s that should have also been sort of retreated as quickly as possible. Some tulip rockets are actually going to slow down the Panther army a little bit with the stun on the one Panther that's taken a lot of damage, but the other one Panther is still alive, along with a pack gun and a Rakenwerfer, both Vet2, pushing up really easily, taking out the Firefly. It wasn't really being in any way retreated, and also taking out the Vet2 M10 along with the support of the Panther, perhaps? Yep, the M10 actually stops to take out the Firefly. That was actually a good decision out of the Panzer Grenadier that could, because the M10 is a 90 fuel vehicle, whereas the Firefly is like a 145, I think, fuel vehicle. 155 even. So you not only have lost the 155 fuel vehicle for Apple Company over here, he was about to hand that over to the enemy. So sacrificing that 90 fuel M10 to deny the enemy a 155 fuel Firefly is a worthy trade, pretty much. And he wasn't even forced to sacrifice it, because the M10 was actually abandoned by the shot of the Panther. So it was pretty much just like waiting on it, and the M10 was at the mercy of the Panther. but the Panther did not finish off the vehicle. So the wreck is now completely in the zone of control of the Allies. There is a AVRE from Apple Company. He has also gone for the Royal Engineer Regiment, of course, and he is going to deal a huge amount of damage to this Volksgrenadier blob, taking out 2 Vet 5 squads. And that's going to be a huge problem for Odin. He was relying on those Volksgrenadiers vetted up to have a sort of a map presence, to have something to come in and clean up after the armor sort of had their main meal, clean up the scraps, take the points. And I feel like now that he lacks that, he's going to be in big trouble, because right now the Germans, yes, they have their big, huge vehicles, they have their big, huge defenses, but they're going to be sort of sieging themselves into those defenses, like sort of closing themselves onto the defensive positions, just like they've been doing on the right side. They do have a lot of vehicles over here, they do have a lot of defenses, but they've just been allowing the British to just slowly push up, slowly artillery them, slowly take them out one by one, without really taking the initiative in any kind of way. And taking the initiative is exactly what the Germans need to be doing, because they're also losing in VPs, as you can see. The left side VP is their only saving race right now, and the only thing that's sort of preventing them from being destroyed in the space of 3 minutes by the Allied triple cap, that is possible if these American infantry were actually to stay in the capture instead of just charging against the Schwer Panzer quarters and the huge amount of German forces. Now they're of course trying to get in as close as possible to call down a RNG RD. So the RNG RD is actually going to come down on the huge amount of German forces, and as you can see, it's already starting to deal a lot of damage. And as you can see, it was called down over here, but it came down, the shell actually landed over here, so you can already see the RNG nature of the RNG RD. And as you can see, holy shit, taking out a Raken River and a mortar already, and any German unit that is staying in this circle, as you can see, it's not that easy to see the circle, but it is there. Any German unit that is staying here should probably get the hell out of there as quickly as possible. It is like staying under just a huge bombardment that is very, very erratic. So the fact that no more German units were taken out, this pack and this 222 were especially asking for it. So I feel like the Germans were very lucky. The Germans were definitely very lucky. Now, on the right side, the British were able to take out the Schwer Panzer quarters, but at the same time, the Wehrmacht player Pussy Tank has forgone his Tiger option that he could have for 3 Panthers, and I feel like French Predator went for a Stuka, and that is a really good decision, because right now they need that already on the right side of the map to deal with the the British defenses. There are 3 Comets fighting 3 Panthers, but the main thing that's really been turning the fight in the Comet's advantage are these 6-pounder and stand guns, and also the fact that all of the Allied infantry can just kind of walk in sort of unmolested from any kind of German infantry, because the only German infantry on the right side of the map are these 2 machine guns that can be easily taken out by mortars or by any way of flanking, and then easily these Stern Pioneers can be dealt with by the infantry blob of the British, and then the infantry blob can help sort of push away these anti-tank guns that the Germans have, and then allow the anti-tank guns of the British to be the only AT on the right side, thus turning the fight in the favor of the British players. However, really, right now, the thing that is important for the Germans is the fact that the tide may be turning because of the Stuka. The Stuka is going to be able to deal with the anti-tank guns if targeted correctly, and especially if Pussy Tank can get out some Grenadiers, or even some MGs. At this point, I feel like MGs could also be very useful to sort of cover these areas. Of course, there's already 1 MG from Pussy Tank, but he needs a little bit more. There are a couple of machine guns from French Predator, but right now, the main thing is that they need more machine guns than they actually seem to need, because yes, the area that they're fighting in is fairly small and can be covered by a few machine guns, but the main problem is the fact that the machine guns are going to be very vulnerable to the British artillery, especially the mortar, and any other kind of call-in that they can do, for example, the air supremacy or the mortar cover from the Commando Regiment of Mostro. And that's going to be really bad for the machine guns. If their thin line gets sort of pierced in one place, then all the line will fall apart. Of course, if you double down on the MGs and get 2 MGs for every area of ground that you have to cover, then that won't happen because you can space them out a little bit more and prevent them all from being destroyed by artillery. Now, on the left side, we do have a huge armor engagement. M10s along with sort of British support coming in and trying to do a lot of damage. A Stuka will actually fall down on the infantry blob of the Panzer Grenadier Could, taking a lot of damage on the units, but not actually a lot of casualties, which is, well, really lucky for him because he will be able to also support his own allies, his ABRE, as it pushes up and destroys a bunker, along with almost taking out the crew of this support gun. That's going to be great for the allies if they can get the crew out of the action. And that's a Vet 2 support gun. The other support gun is Vet 4, so these investments were definitely repaid in kind. Now, something just got destroyed with a huge bang, and it was probably this Comet. Yes, there is a bug where you can heal via... Heal? What? You can damage, you can heal, I don't know. You can hear units being destroyed on pretty much all areas of the map from any area of the map. Now, this Comet is definitely not doing the correct move. I mean, okay, so he popped the vehicle crew repairs with the smoke and the self-repair on the Comet, but I feel like that is a terrible decision. I'm not sure he knew what the ability actually did, because it stopped the Comet dead in its tracks in pretty much the middle of the German forces. Of course, he was very lucky with the Comet that the sort of German anti-tanks were pushed away by the British efforts. Now, of course, machine guns going down is not really that great for the Germans, but there is a pack gun trying to do I don't know what, and it will be probably destroyed by these infantry sections that have been flanking around the machine gun. And the machine gun will be able to get some suppressing fire down, but it will not be enough because it will be completely smashed, as you can see by the mortar. Mortar up to 41 kills, very good investment, very good return as well. Now, on the left side and the center, the Allies have been a little bit thwarted in their efforts to attack the left VP. However, the Allies do have a huge amount of M10s, and Apple Company still has a pretty big amount of manpower that he can spend. Still, I believe, gold medalist on the floating Olympics, and that's not really that good. That's really not that good because he could be doing so much more of those resources, and if he would do so much more with those resources, the sliver that the sort of Germans are hanging on, it's like those movies where the main protagonist is like hanging by a thread, like just trying to not fall down from whatever like huge amount of cliff that he's just holding onto it. And well, that's pretty much only there because like the villain is not stomping his hand out because he's just like there and he's like, haha, I'm gloating over you. Well, this is like that, except it's incompetence and not really gloating over the enemy. And I feel like that would not be that it would not be that easy for the Germans to keep all of this if Apple Company had used these manpower resources to get a couple of machine guns, a couple of anti-tank guns, and use those to sort of support a line of free mortar pits over here. Because that would be able to pretty easily destroy all of these German defenses, and that would pretty much pave the way for an offensive with the M10s, because right now the M10s have been very effective for, whereas the Panzer Grenadier could. He's got 4 of them. None of them are, of course, veteran, because, of course, they're kind of a kamikaze sort of way. They kind of go in, they suicide, they take out, they trade, and then eventually they die, so they don't really keep their veterancy. But still, it's really nice to have those 5 actually M10s, because there's one that's still repairing and it's not showing up as an icon. So having those 5 M10s is going to be really good, especially to deal with the elephant right now on the left side. I haven't really talked about the elephant. The elephant right now is in the only position where the elephant on this map is really that good, which is of course the left side sort of plane. The right side plane also has some good spots for the elephant, but it's really easy to flank over here because you can just push through over here and get around and flank an elephant that's sitting perhaps over here, or you can alternatively walk around this area and flank it as well. Whereas on the left side, it's a little bit harder to flank because, of course, it is a little bit closer. The approaches are actually a little bit closer to where the Germans are. Now, a Panzerwerfer is on the field for weed, and that's probably a good decision. He's also got a 222 Scout Car with the map hacks upgrade, and the map hacks upgrade is, as you can see from the Fog of War, a map hack. So it's really good. Always go for the map hack 222 if you have a spotting scope doctrine, because it is going to help you out very greatly. It is absolutely the Wehrmacht version of the well, it's actually probably even better than the map hack half track that the Germans get, the infrared, and it is definitely that much better than the map hacks of the Soviets, or the unit map hacks of the Soviets, which would be the T-70 with recon mode. It's, I believe, not better than the map hacks that the Soviets get with doctrine abilities, for example, the interception. I'm not exactly sure as to what the name is. Radio interception, I think, and the spy network from the partisan doctrine. Those are of course better, but they are abilities that cost, of course, munitions to activate, and you have to you have to spend munitions to keep them activated. Of course, the map hack 222, you buy the upgrade once and you are done with it. Now, of course, that was, I don't need to tell you that that was a terrible decision with the AVRE. The AVRE, yes, Advanced Royal Engineer Vehicle. Wait, no, Advanced Vehicle Royal Engineers. Yes, it's a heavy tank that's supposed to spearhead your offensive into enemy defenses. It's not supposed to go alone against Free Panthers. So, yeah. Now, on the left side, there is finally a bit of a action from Apple Company. Apple Company has his AVRE with 20 kills and 1 veterancy level, but there is a Panther Bet2 trying to take it out. Of course, there are 4 M10s. The 5th M10 is still somewhere. I'm not sure if it died or something. Now, the AVRE actually manages to get out a petard mortar shot on the Panther. Panther also trying to dive into the backlines to destroy the AVRE, but it will not be successful. So again, 1 M10 is going to be traded for 1 Panther, which is of course an excellent trade because the Panther is pretty much costs 3 times as much fuel and 1.5 times as much manpower as the M10. So that is going to be really good. Or rather, 2 times as much fuel and 3 times, or 1.5 times as much manpower. So that is a really good trade for the Allies. Of course, on the right side, the Comet Horde, along with the sort of thin red line of anti-tank guns, is still pushing up. But the Germans do have a Command Panther from French Predator, along with 3 Panthers from Pussy Tank. However, they will be in a very, very bad spot because these anti-tank guns have a very clear line of fire over here. As you can see, pretty much no terrain over here to hide behind. And so the Panthers will be able to escape by a sliver, after being pretty much outshot by their own British counterparts with their 17-pounder and 6-pounder guns. And right now, there's only a German Vet5 Reckenwerfer actually helping out the Panthers in their own endeavors, and that's not going to be enough because the position it is in, it's pretty good for an ambush, but it's not really that good for a frontal engagement through this sort of a lane. And of course, it is not going to be enough to sort of help out, also because it isn't on prioritized vehicles, and it's shooting at these commandos that are trying to overrun the engineers that are trying to repair the German vehicles. Of course, there is also a repair station over here by French Predator that does have the repair automatrons being upgraded, so they are able to pretty quickly repair the German tanks and get them back onto the fight. Perhaps quicker than the British can, but the British also have a bit of a repair force over here under the wing of the sort of British base. Of course, none of them have gone for the advanced displacement regiment, so they cannot get their own automatrons from the forward assembly, but that's not going to be too much of an issue if they can keep these Royal Engineers alive. Perhaps even getting the Heavy Engineer upgrade. Actually, no, because they've both gone for Comet, so they cannot get the Heavy Engineers. That's unfortunate for them. Now, in the center, a little bit of a Allied force was trying to capture, looks like, the point. There is a demo charge on it, but it wasn't detonated, and the Germans were able to recapture the center. Of course, that is really good because right now they definitely need a little bit of extra time to get their shit together and sort of survive with the VP game. Right now they are very much on the back foot, and the 3 M10s from the Panzergrenadier or the 4 M10s from the Panzergrenadier are pretty much all that Panzergrenadier can get, because as you can see, he's pulling a lot of resources, but that's because he does have a lot of troops at his disposal, so he has been pop capped. Now, how he could avoid that is being a little bit more aggressive with his infantry, not blobbing quite as much, but also being more aggressive in general, which could get them killed, and it could get them killed not in a fashion that's like a blob kill. With the blob, you run the risk of all of your infantry dying at once, and then you cannot replace it anymore because you lost too much. But if you're losing select units in trades, when you're not being as much of a blobber as a just in general, I guess, human wave attacker, even though that's pretty much a blob. But if you're trying to spread out your troops and attack pretty much aggressively, but still not in a suicidal way, and you trade with, for example, these Panzergrenadiers, if these Panzer Grenadiers were traded in for the lives of a few of these American infantry troops. For example, these Panzer Grenadiers managed to get an abandoned grenade down and destroy one of the American squads. Now you can actually use that power cap for something else. Now, another thing that he could do, excellent Panzerwerfer, by the way, from Weed, and also the lieutenant was able to take out the Germans defending the central VP, and they were able to take the central VP. There is also an engagement happening on the right side, but there's really not any way that I can cover it because there is a huge armored swarm of the Allies trying to make their assault on the left side. I feel like it is not the best decision to just go straight at the elephant. He could have definitely flanked through this area of the map because these buildings obstruct the line of sight of the elephant over here, but of course, really good play, surrounding the elephant, taking it out, and that is exactly why the elephant is also very vulnerable to the swarms of lighter tank destroyers and lighter vehicles. For example, even T-34s are really good against the elephant because it can be surrounded, it can be backed up into a corner, and it can be pretty much destroyed by the huge swarm of allied vehicles. Now, unfortunately for the M10s, they were completely taken out, and right now the Panzer Grenadier that could can replace these M10s, but he should be careful not to do that sort of a foolhardy assault again, because he cannot replace those losses twice. He can do that once, and if he can use his M10s wisely in the next few minutes, I feel like he will be able to sort of secure the center and secure victory for the Allies, because right now, in 1 minute of VP bleed, they will be able to defeat the Germans. And nice grenade, actually, from the Comet. Looks like the German defenses were able to hold a little bit on the right side of the map. The Panthers are still alive for Pussy Tank. Pussy Tank does have 4 Panthers, actually no, 3 Panthers and a Tiger for now. But still, he's only got tanks, and he doesn't have any infantry. So that means that he cannot sort of support the tanks in their push, and things like the 17 pounder are able to easily repel the German armor, along with the pretty much uncontested British vehicles, because there's no German anti-tank infantry that can sort of deal its damage against the British. So the British tanks can kind of freely maneuver. They're free to sort of not worry about getting their engines blown by Panzerfausts. They're free to not worry about an ambush of Panzer Grenadiers with Panzerschrecks or Storm Pioneers with Panzerschrecks. They're free to not worry about ambushes from Raketenwerfers, because the infantry goes up first, clears out the area from enemy units, and just kind of allows the British vehicles to have a superiority. Now, along with that, for example, these commandos bringing up their own Panzerschreck that was stolen from the enemy, spawning the German Panther, allowing the Sherman Firefly to actually destroy it pretty easily. It is going to be really good in general, because right now Pussy Tank is pretty much left with 2 Panthers and a Tiger, and his own ally French Predator doesn't have anything really, so he's not going to be able to do much to support him. And again, I feel like the German players, I'll start to talk about the mistakes and what they could have done better to actually avoid this fate. Definitely the German players on the right side of the map could have been a little bit more supportive of their allies. That was actually funny. That friendly fire from the Stuka was not what the Germans were needing. The Germans were needing a sort of capturing device for the central VP, but what they were left with was a mound of corpses, because their own artillery destroyed their own infantry that was going in and capping. Now, good counter push from the British players, actually going to force away the Panzerschrecks, the Panzer Grenadiers, and actually the machine guns were taken out by a second artillery barrage from the German players on the right side, or at the left side, probably from the Panzerwerfer, so that was really good. And of course, again, as I was talking about, the German players on the right side should have been a little bit more supportive of their allies, especially in the center and on the left side. They should have sent a few more of their troops when they realized that, which they didn't, but they should have realized that their cause on the right side of the map was kind of lost, and they were just headbutting onto a wall, and they should have been a little bit more cautious as to not wasting their units on the right side, sending them to the center, and helping out their own allies on the left, just by relieving some pressure. Whereas the allies were able to secure their own foothold on the right side of the map, and then send their own troops and their own vehicles on missions on the left side of the map to help out their own allies, and by that way they kind of achieved a superiority in terms of numbers on the left side, and that allowed them to win out in the end in the attrition warfare. Now, despite the fact that sometimes the allies were a little bit crazy in their frontal charges against the very well prepared defenses on the left side for the Germans the Germans could really not push into the center, and they could not push into the right because of the huge numerical superiority that the Allies had in those regions of the map. And that was pretty much the main reason why they have lost in terms of EPs. In terms of units, only really the, I believe, French Predator and perhaps in some moments of the game, also the other OKW player, Odin, was suffering quite a bit, and also Weed was suffering quite a bit in certain moments of the game. However, they were able to come back, unlike French Predator, who, well, at one point had a decent force, but then he just kind of lost it. Again, in terms of numbers, they were pretty simply put even, but in terms of territory, the Allies were better because they were able to concentrate their forces where they were needed, when they were needed, and use that to their advantage. Now, right now, the blob of Panzer, god damn it, Stern Pioneers, the blob of Stern Pioneers charging in the center just kind of shows you what could have been happening if the German players on the right side had been a little bit more dynamic with their forces, instead of just sending them constantly to the right side, constantly just continuing to headbutt onto the same area strip of map. They could have done a lot more damage because, again, the Stern Pioneers come in, he wasn't expecting it, the Panzer Grenadier Cud was not expecting it in any kind of way, any kind of capacity, and he was surprised, the bulldozers were destroyed, and now it's a little bit too late to use that to their advantage, but still. Other mistakes, I feel like the doctrine selection was kind of iffy from all of the German players except Pussy Tank. However, Pussy Tank really, he didn't really use his doctrine selection that was pretty solid. Of course, also, French Predator had a pretty solid doctrine selection. He did use his doctrine a little bit better than he uses everything else, so I feel like that's okay. He's actually going to also drive into a Gamma Bomb with his Command Panther, which is not exactly the best decision. The British were trying an assault on the left side of the map, but it is a little bit over anyway, so that will not be in any kind of way decisive. Of course, another big problem was the fact that Odin was so defensive on the left side. He had this King Tiger for pretty much the entirety of the second half of the game, and he didn't do anything with it. I'm not exactly sure as to why that is. He could have been using that to spearhead assaults into the center. I feel like he was a little bit afraid of the M10s, but if he would have pushed up with King Tiger and had the Elephant covering the rear of the King Tiger, then that would have been pretty good as a countermeasure, because of course the Elephant having that extra range could have been really good while the King Tiger focuses the attention of the M10s, just kind of taunts them, and then the Elephant from the back takes them out. I feel like that would have been good, but the coordination was just not there. Other mistakes, again, Odin and Pussy Tank really wanted to get into that podium for the floating Olympics, getting that silver medal for Pussy Tank and that bronze medal for Odin. I feel like they should have used their manpower a lot better. I've already talked about how Pussy Tank could have been using his manpower better. Odin could have rebuilt his infantry force that he lost to the EVRE. He could have perhaps built some more Rakettenwerfers to help counter the armor pushes of the Americans and the British, because just a few Rakettenwerfers hidden behind his own vehicles would have allowed him to sort of counter the flanks, counter the dives of the M10s a lot better. Just having a reserve to fall back to. And also, he could have gone for a infrared half-track to help out with the vision in the center. He could have gone for Obersoldaten even, if he was in any way afraid of the Allied infantry, which he shouldn't have been. Still, Obersoldaten could have also worked, perhaps one or two squads. Again, there's so much that he could have done with his manpower, but he just didn't. And that's a very big shame. Other than that, I feel like that's pretty much the end. So I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the cast. I hope you will learn something from it, and I'll see you soon. Bye.